I haven't seen it.
All right, good afternoon. We'll call the regular meeting of August 16th, 2023 to order. We have a quorum, it looks like, but let's make sure. Clerk, please call the roll.
All right, Chair Manfor is absent. Vice Chair Duncan?
Here.
Commissioner Morgan?
Here.
Commissioner Griffin is absent. Commissioner Nunley? Absent. Commissioner Osmany? Absent. Commissioner Ramos? Also absent. Commissioner Ross?
Here.
Commissioner Stajabu?
Here.
Commissioner Starks? And Commissioner Wu?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have a quorum. We'll now move to the public comment section of the agenda. Clerk, can you read the public comment script printed there?
Persons wishing to address the commission on subjects not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the commission may do so at this time. The commission cannot discuss or take action on matters not on the agenda for this meeting. To speak on an agenda item, complete a speaker's card and give it to the clerk. If you are joining via Zoom or phone, please use the raise your hand feature or press star 9 on your phone. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes per item.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers today?
We have none.
Okay. So since we don't have any speakers, let's move on to the consent items on the agenda. Clerk, can you read the consent item?
All matters listed on consent are to be approved by one motion unless a commissioner or the public requests that separate action is taken on the specific item.
Okay. So commissioners, we've got a list there of our consent items. Can I ask for a motion to approve the consent items?
Move consent.
Second.
So we have Commissioner Morgan who moves and Commissioner Stajabu who seconds. If there was no objection, we'll pass the motion to approve the consent items. Seeing no objection. Hearing no objection, the motion passes unanimously. We'll now move on to discussion items. Clerk, can you read the title of item number 3?
Albert Einstein Residence Center Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act hearing and approval of tax exempt bonds.
Okay, and I believe there'll be a presentation from staff.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, Commissioners. My name is Whitney Hinton, Program Manager in Development Finance Portfolio Management. Staff is requesting approval of tax exempt bond issuance for the rehabilitation and financing of Albert Einstein Resource Center project. This is an affordable housing senior development project located at 1935 Wright Street in Sacramento that is at risk of losing its affordability. Currently, there is an existing project-based housing assistance payment or HAP contract from the Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD for all the units that is set to expire in 2026, but will be extended with this acquisition. The property consists of a single, 2-story residential building, which includes 78 one-bedrooms and one-bathroom units, where residents will pay 30% of their income for rent. The property was originally constructed in 1981 and had a large renovation 13 years ago, and the property is in really great shape. The interior renovations will include the reconfiguration of the 8 ADA units with accessibility to kitchens, doors, bathrooms, tubs, and grab bars. The remaining 70 units will include, but not limited to, the replacement of entry doors, upgrading of the appliances, lighting, life safety systems, and flooring. Some of the exterior renovations include the repair to the parking lot and walkways, upgrading the site accessibility, replacement of the roof, installation of new lighting, and upgrades to the elevator and traction closures. Security Properties is a developer. They've acquired the property to keep it affordable. They have acquired and developed over 107,000 residential units. This will be their first project in Sacramento. The project will be managed by the John Stewart Company, and resident services will be provided by communities advocating for resident empowerment or CARE. CARE will provide 20 hours of on-site services per week. In closing, staff recommends approval of the tax exempt bond issuance for the rehabilitation for the Albert Einstein Resource Center, and staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from commissioners?
I have one. Thank you. Not a big one, just for learning. You're here. So that's good. You're moving on up. That's great. All right. Thank you for your information. But I wanted to find out, are there any concerns often when, bonds are released of the folks not buying them, or is a company advance those funds in advance for the bonds and then they're sold out to the public? Or, I was just wondering, if we're going to release a bond, how do they get the funds for that? Does that come from SHRA, or it's the bond sale, right? So how does that work? That's what I'm curious about. Thank you.
Good evening, Christine Whitehead. So these bonds will be privately placed, which means they're from a bank who purchased them. So this will actually have one of the conventional banks we often work with, Wells Fargo, US Bank, one of these traditional banks. So no, we are not concerned at all. The bank will provide the financing through the bonds.
Yeah, because I was in a bond manager, and sometimes there's a group that says, yeah, we'll take them, and then they'll go out and handle them in another case. So, okay. So that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay. Are there any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay. So can I ask for a motion to approve the report before submission to the county? All right, it's moved by Commissioner Wu and seconded by Commissioner Stajabu. Are there any objections? Okay, no objections, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to presentations. Will the clerk read item number 4?
Budget presentation on revenue trends and projections.
And we have a presentation from staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Susanna Jackson. I am the Chief Financial Officer here at SHRA. So I'm very pleased to kick off our budget season. So this is the first of 5 budget workshops that we will be going through. And we will bring the final budget to you for approval on November 1st. Okay. Oh, it froze. Oh, there we go. Okay, so first I want to provide a brief overview on how the agency is funded. So as you know, most of our programs are funded at the federal level by U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. So approximately 65% of our revenues are funded that are dedicated at the federal level. So a lot of these programs you've heard before, but we will go at a very high level. So the Housing Choice Voucher Program, it's one of our major sources, and it is a federal rental assistance program in which eligible low-income participants are given a voucher to secure rental housing anywhere within the city or the county of Sacramento. Rental assistance payments are made directly to the landlord on behalf of the tenant. After the Housing Choice Voucher Program, we will discuss the Public Housing Program, which is the federal rental housing program, in which qualified participants are housed in agency-owned property. The agency collects rents from the tenants, and HUD provides an operating subsidy to cover the gap between the rents collected and the cost of the operations. We will also talk about the Capital Fund, which is also for public housing, which is also, of course, a federal program tied directly to the public housing program, These grant funds are provided by HUD annually to provide capital improvement funds for the modernization of the public housing properties. We will also discuss some federal entitlement programs, which include CDBG and HOME. CDBG is specifically for a formula-based grant, and so is the Home Investment Partnership. CDBG grant provides funding to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing, suitable living environment, and by expanding economic opportunities, principally for low and moderate income persons. The HOME grant funds a wide range of activities, including building, buying, and or rehabilitating affordable housing for rent or homeownership, or providing direct rental assistance to low-income people. HOME is the largest federal block grant to state and local governments designed exclusively to create affordable housing for low-income households. We will also briefly touch on some local funds, which is our housing trust. So these are local funds collected from non-residential development and are used to fund affordable housing projects that are intended to serve the low-end workforce employed by commercial businesses in the surrounding area. So these fees are managed by the agency for both the city and the county. So this next chart reflects the trends and estimates for the HCD administrative funding. The HCD administrative funding eligibility is based on the number of units leased within the Housing Authority's authorized voucher allocation. Once eligibility is determined, HUD uses a formula to determine the administrative fees for the agency. In 2023, the agency is receiving roughly $114 for the first 7,200 units leased in the month, which is up from $109 last year. For each remaining unit leased above the 7,200, we're receiving approximately $106, which also is an increase from the 2022 numbers. So while this fee increase is good, unfortunately, it doesn't tell the whole story. HUD typically applies a proration to our formula, which reduces the fees so that the admin fees actually paid to housing authorities match the appropriations provided by Congress. So for example, for 2023, we're currently at about 89.5% proration, which is similar to last year. So last year, the total fees eligible was about 14 million, and we received 13, just to give you an idea. So moving on to the HCV HAP, so this is the Housing Assistance Payments. This chart reflects the revenues and expenses by year. So at first glance, you can look at this chart and assume that the agency has increased its voucher utilization, when in general, the program has always done a really good job of maintaining a high level of voucher utilization. The increased HAP expenses, though, over the year really illustrates the increase of housing costs overall. So the higher the utilization, the higher the funding available from HUD. However, eligibility is only half the battle, as appropriations for the program are determined annually and also result in proration on the HAP as well. So it's important to note that when moving forward with our rental assistance demonstration program that you've all heard so much about, the HAP dollars will increase to the agency for the vouchers that are created during that process. So moving on to the public housing revenues and trends. Yes. Oh.
So I was looking at, thank you. I was looking at the chart. I can just wait till you're done, I'll save it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. So once again, the next slide illustrates the historical revenue trends for your public housing program. So you can see in 2020 was a good year at approximately 21.6 million combined for both the city and the county public housing programs. This is really due to the increased CARES Act money that came during COVID. So as you can see, we have smaller amounts for 22 and 23. And we do anticipate the number of units in our public housing program to continue to reduce because we are participating in the rental assistance demonstration program, which will then affect the subsidy we receive. So moving on to the capital fund within public housing. So again, each year, public housing receives far less amount that is needed to really stay on top of the physical needs for our properties. So this slide really illustrates the historical funding levels from the agency. So in 2020, you can see there was a slight increase from the prior 2 years. The capital fund did not see an influx of CARES money like both HCD and public housing did. In 2022, there was an overall increase of funds flowing to the housing authorities for housing programs, and the agency anticipated an ongoing decrease of capital fund dollars due to the ongoing initiative, again, of RAD. But we were pleasantly surprised with the slight increase of funding, which remained consistent in 23. We are anticipating a slight decrease for 2024, however, just due, again, to RAD and the units that have converted over. Moving now to the entitlement programs, we'll start with the federal home program. So home and CDBG will be the next two slides. As you can see, in 2018, we experienced an increase in funding for this program. Once again, because of the CARES money, there was a large jump in 2021 I'm sorry, not CARES, the American Rescue Plan. So we received $21 million. So 2022 saw an increase from the prior period due to the pandemic, which carried a little bit into 23, but we anticipated 23 and 24 to pretty much maintain at the same levels. So much like the home program, we saw an increase in CDBG in 2020 due to CARES Act for a total of about $14 million in increases. So 2022 saw a decrease again with the funding remaining consistent into 23 and to kind of come back to more normalized levels, and we expect that going into 2024. So now going to just one of our many local managed funds, the Housing Trust Fund. So as stated earlier, these housing trust funds are collected from non-residential development and are used to fund affordable housing projects intended to serve the low-income workforce employed by the commercial businesses in the surrounding area. Since 2016, the Housing Trust Fund revenue has steadily declined and once again had some gains in 2021. So we did, however, anticipate the funding to be slightly lower in 2022, and we are anticipating a slight increase to finish off 2023 based off of revenues received thus far, and we do estimate a slightly more conservative number moving into 2024. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm ready for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any commissioner questions?
I had a few, yeah, thank you. I had a few questions. So, the ACC HAP, so I was just by curiosity, so I saw that there are some points where, which I anticipated that expenses would exceed revenue, but then there are some situations where revenue is exceeding expenses, and then it seems like an even match in the other year. So I was just curious. I mean, that would be good that expenses are, breaking even with revenue. But what would bring about increases in revenue versus expenses, and what happens with those?
What would indicate increase in revenue?
Yeah, why would revenue be higher than expenses? I suppose that would be a good thing, but I was thinking that maybe there would be a trend in expenses being more.
So we have to do monthly reporting to HUD, so with variations, a lot of times HUD will anticipate a certain number of months coming into you at a specific interval and amount. And we always have to report to them, what is our utilization? What is the half amount that's going out? And every once in a while, every quarter or so, they will reevaluate what you have on hand, and they will adjust accordingly. They have something called cash management. They don't want you sitting on a lot of cash, so they will monitor that every single month we report to HUD. So they will adjust accordingly.
So adjustments coming into the next. Okay, that makes sense. Then on the public housing capital fund. So if you mentioned there's usually a shortage, right, or what it costs, and then I guess. So I think it's the RAD program that's used to try to address that, is that correct?
Yes, so in the sense of for us to modernize and move it to the RAD platform, yes.
It's too expensive, so we're moving to that.
Yeah, there's not enough money to address all the capital needs.
Right. So I'm learning, my curve is going about that.
No, that's great.
Then the last one has to do on the federal home. So if we had that kind of big jump, which when I was looking at it, I said, oh, that's probably, COVID money or, American Rescue Plan, right? So what, with all those dollars, is that more like in the rental assistance help and so forth, or what's going to happen what happened when all that's gone?
I think that you really raised a very good question. As a result of, the CARES Act or ARPA funding, we were able to really feed the pipeline of affordable housing. As you can see, some of these projects that we've been working on a long time are finally coming online, or we're doing groundbreaking, and that's because we really had an unprecedented amount of funds so that we could do more projects. And our concern, obviously, going forward is that now that we don't have that money, the financial cliff that both the city and the county are in terms of returning back to the previous funding levels, which means we won't be able to create as much affordable housing.
Okay. All right. With the disaster, sometimes it brings some blessings, but this.
I think that what it points out is where the need is. I mean, because if you look at where the need is, even with that huge influx of funding, we still weren't meeting the entire need, but we were definitely getting a lot closer than where we are. But
Well, thank you for that. And I was just thinking, we always need more housing, and then I'm not thankful for COVID, but I am thankful that we're able to do something, because it's going to be a problem when people are living in this, their own personal traumas and disaster situations all the time, and we need more housing. So anyway, thank you for that explanation. Thank you for your presentation. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Starks?
Michelle and staff, is this an issue? If you don't spend it, you'll lose it? You mentioned something about HUD not wanting to see a lot of money on your books.
No, and you're talking about the half.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they give you an allocation and they want us to report to them every month, just so you're not sitting on an excess cash, really. That's just really what they want to see. But they expect you to use it. It's allocated to you. So with the ebb and flow of the half that goes out, they'll make you whole if you end up having a higher expense month for whatever reason.
So is this with any, not just the half, is there any scenario you have where if you don't use it, then they won't, you're running the risk of them not creating that revenue for future years?
Yes. I think Susie's right in terms of how the federal government looks at our HAP, or our housing assistance payments, which are the payments that we use to pay all the landlords through the Housing Choice Voucher Program. But if you look at programs like the HOME program, we do have a time frame upon which we are to spend that money. And so we're always monitoring that all the time, in terms of what is the time that we receive the money, what is the time that that money has to go out. So that's one of the things we're always balancing. And obviously, we never want to give any money back. No.
Okay. And, the thing I think about is that you guys ran that rate, the energy service thing. You guys did an awesome job.
Yeah, the emergency rental assistance program.
Emergency rental assistance program. Is there any chance of revenues being allocated?
Captured?
Yeah.
No. But like your question, yes, there is a time frame upon which you must spend the money, but we will definitely be out of money way before that. I think it's at 2025, 2026, but yeah, we're down to the last
Of that money.
6 million or less.
Any other commissioner questions? All right. Are there any public comments?
No public comments.
So no motion is needed on this item, so we'll move on to the executive director's report.
So good evening, Chair, members of the commission. I want to thank Susie for kicking off the first 5 budget meetings that we will have an opportunity to really drill down into all of the different program areas within SHRA and talk about not only the money, but also the accomplishments and things that we've been able to do over the past year. So we really find this is a great opportunity to really understand a lot of the details. So this is the teaser for all of the presentations to come. So our next meeting is scheduled for September 6th, so I want to make sure you have that on your calendar. And because it is budget season, I believe that we're having about 2 meetings per month. Is that correct? Yes. So please make sure that you mark that on your calendars. Also, again, want to thank the commissioners who had the opportunity to come out to our last two groundbreaking events. One was at 39th and Broadway, which was very exciting. Worked on that a long time. That's the senior housing in Oak Park. And the other one was the on-Broadway apartments as well on Broadway. On Broadway is on Broadway. So we're very glad that you were able to attend those two events. And another grand opening, so nothing's better than a groundbreaking than a ribbon cutting, and that is coming up for Villa Harding / Coral Gables. That is going to be on September 6th from 10 to 12 p.m. at 49 Coral Gables Court. So I know that Amber sent out invitations last week. We'll send out a reminder before the event, but there'll be a lot of great festivities and refreshments, and just look forward to you coming out and celebrating and really seeing the impact of all these things that you vote on come to fruition. So with that, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any commission member reports? Any news?
I'm going to try, I can't RSVP for the groundbreaking because it's during some work time, but if I can squeeze it out, I'll be there. But congratulations, it's exciting and in the right places.
Yeah, it is very exciting. I live close to on Broadway, at Broadway and 19th, and seeing that building that's been sitting there derelict for many years come down, and now it's an empty lot, is a beautiful sight. So I look forward to seeing the project built there. I just want to recognize Commissioner Morgan, who had a birthday this week. Is that correct? Happy birthday. Any other announcements? Not 7. All right, there's no other business, so I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.